Hey Thunkers, this is Simran from Thunkable and welcome to another video in the advanced tutorial series. In this video, we'll be learning how to use the new Bluetooth low energy component on Thunkable. So before we get into it, let's talk a little bit about what Bluetooth low energy is. First of all, you can call it BLE, short for Bluetooth low energy. Basically, it's a form of wireless communication, and that just means that your device can connect or communicate with another device that's near you. BLE is used in various different tech gadgets that are all around us. So it could be things like your fitness watches, smart home items like light bulbs, and even your cell phones. So in this video, we're going to make a very basic app that will teach us how to use the BLE component blocks. So what this app will do is that it'll connect to an LED display, and we're just going to send some text through our app, and it will show up on the LED screen. So there's a little bit of hardware that we'll be using to make this project, and that includes the LED display screen. We have an Arduino board, as well as a little Bluetooth sensor, and we got all these items from a Super Starter kit that we'll link in the description box below. Again, there's a lot of hardware that we're using, so we're going to put all the code that we use for the Arduino and link it in the description box so you can use that to recreate this project. This tutorial is more for getting familiar with the BLE component blocks. So before we get into the fun app building, let's quickly take a look at a demo of what we're going to be making. Alright, so to find devices near us, we're going to click the scan button. So now you'll see that DSD Tech HM-10 shows up, which is the device that we were looking for. And now we want to connect to it, so we'll click the connect button. And if I want to send a message to it, I can just type something here. And I'll click send. And you can see that it shows up on our LED display. Great, so let's start building this app, and we're going to start by dragging out all the components that we need from the designer. So we'll need 3 labels, so let's drag them in. So let's start formatting the labels, and the first label is going to tell us which devices are around us that we can connect to. So we'll rename this to be the scan label. The second label will tell us which device we've connected to. So we'll call this to device we connected to label. And the third label will just display an error message if anything goes wrong. So we'll name this the error label. Great, let's keep going. So we need 3 buttons. The first button is the one we're going to click to scan for devices that are around us. So we'll call this the scan button. And we'll change the text of it to also be scanned so we know exactly what it is. The second button will allow us to connect to the device that we want to, so we'll call this the connect button. And we'll also change its text to be connect. The third button is going to be the one that sends our message over to the LED display. So we'll call this the send button, and we'll change the text of it to be send. Now we need to add a text input right before the send button, so that way we can actually have some information to send. And we'll rename this to be the send text input. And we'll leave the hint to be type here, so we know that we got to type here in order to send a message across. So that's everything for design, and I've made this very simple and basic, but remember, you can customize your app however you want. You can change the colors, you can add background images, and we also have some videos on learning how to design your app, so you can check those out. Now we have one more thing that we have to add from the designer, which is very important, and that is the Bluetooth low energy component. So we're just going to drag that in. Alright, so let's start programming the app now, and to do that, we're going to go to the blocks. So the first thing we want to program is what happens when we click the first button, which is the scan button. So what we want to happen is that we want the BLE component to scan for devices that are near us so we can connect to them. So we're going to click on scan button, and we'll take this when scan button click block. And now we're going to click on Bluetooth low energy and get this in Bluetooth low energy call scan block. Again, what this scan block does is it simply just looks around for other devices that you can connect to. So the BLE scan block has 3 outputs. The first one is device IDs. So this is a numerical code for the devices that are near us. And if we don't want a numerical code and we want the name of a device, we have this device names output. And the error output just gives us a message if something goes wrong. So we're going to set the text of this scan label to be device names, so that way we know all the devices that have been scanned and found near us. Great, now we can move on to the connect button. So we're going to click on the connect button drawer and grab the when connect button click block. And now we'll go to the BLE drawer and get this call connect to device ID block. So what the connect to device ID block does is that it connects specifically to the device that we input here in the device ID section. So to figure out what the device name is, I have this app called Light Blue. And what it does is that it just lists all of the devices that you can connect to near you, and it'll tell you information about them. So now we know that our device name is DSD Tech HM-10. Also, Bluetooth device names will vary because we're using different devices, so yours might not be the same as mine. Alright, so now we know the device name, so we can input that over here. So to do that, we're going to take a text block and then just paste in our device name. And again, this error output is just there so that you can display an error message if anything goes wrong. So we'll set the text of this device we connected to label to the device name output. So once it's connected, it'll show up and we know that we've connected successfully. Now we can program how we're going to send information to be displayed on our LED screen. So we'll click on the send button drawer and get the when send button click block. Now we'll go into the BLE drawer and we'll take this in Bluetooth low energy called transmit block. So what the transmit block does is that it just sends over data to the device that you've connected to. And in a similar way, you can use the receive block to get data from the device you're connected to. So we're going to use the transmit block. We need to provide the transmit block with two pieces of information. So we need to tell it the characteristic UUID, which I'll get to in a second, and we need to send some data to it. So the characteristic UUID is basically just a code that belongs to the device that we've connected to. And in order to start sending data to that device, we need to provide its characteristic UUID code. So let me show you how to get that code. So to find the characteristic UUID, we're going to go back to the Light Blue app, and you can click on the device name that you've connected to. So for us, that's the DSD Tech. And over here, you'll see a section that says Advertise Service UUIDs. And this long code over here is what you want to copy and paste that into your app. Okay, so now we know what the UUID is. So we're going to take the text block and we're going to paste our UUID in there. And now all we have to do is send some data over to the LED. And the data that we want to send over is the text that we get from the text input. So we're going to get this from text input, get text block, and connect that here. So we'll set the text of the error label to be error. And this will just tell us if us sending data was successful or not. And that's pretty much it. So let's live test it and see what happens. To start looking for our device, we'll click scan. And we see the device we're looking for, DSD Tech, so we'll click connect. And we can see that it's connected in the label. So I'll say something like, "Hi Thunkers," and we'll click send. And there you go, it shows up on our LED display. So in the description box, we'll have a link to the Arduino code that we used to set up the LED. This video was mainly to learn how to use the BLE component blocks and learn how to find things like the device ID and the characteristic UUID. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of neat things that you can build with the BLE component, and we're excited to see what you create. Thanks for thunking, and we'll see you in our next video.